Mic check. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do you hear me, man? Grand rising to all. Hopefully, everybody's doing well on this Friday AM. Hopefully, we got a chance to compete, chance to follow through with that goal that we set out to every week, which is make this our greatest week ever. Time is moving fast, and it's crazy because even last night, I was at this event. Shout out to my brother Amir. He had his sixth annual Kawaja Scholarship Dinner. So shout out to him and what he's doing. And I was talking to a bunch of people, some that I hadn't talked to in a long time, childhood friends. And we were talking about how fast time is moving. And then we got into all the conspiracy talk. We got into, well, they say that the earth is rotating faster. I don't know what it is, but something's definitely, there's some sort of shift perhaps. And maybe it's just we're living in more urgent times than we felt in the past, and maybe that's creating a sense of urgency that's making us feel like time is moving fast. But I feel it. I feel it. And then I had, wait until this video is done uploading. And I just recorded earlier because I think the only way that I can show it with volume is to upload it on YouTube, because I think when you just share regular videos, it won't let me have the volume on it. But I just had a Lion King moment. Like, this is a side note. And as you're joining, yes, make sure that you like. That's gonna help boost the algorithm. But I just had a Lion King moment. And there's a lot going on. Yeah, a Lion King moment. I thought I was getting attacked by some squirrels, and then I had to shift my perspective and realize that, maybe the squirrels are trying to tell me something. Maybe I'm just attracting a certain type of energy. And y'all are not gonna believe me. And I want y'all to really think about how you're feeling right now about me just sharing that story with the squirrels. You like, he's probably exaggerating. Like, what is he talking about, the squirrels and all this? Wait till you see the video. Keep that same energy when you see this video, and then you let me know if I'm bugging or not. But yeah, let me start off as we always do. Once again, like. That's going to help boost the algorithm. Hold up. We got some amazing news, it looks like. Shout out to Big Bro Finn for sharing with some amazing news. Happy 5th anniversary to the legendary Stephen Dr. King. Truly hope the next 5 years are just as magical as the previous 5. One love, guys. Always, always. As you all know, Steve, Dr. King, our family. Those are family forever. Appreciate y'all as always. And congratulations. Happy anniversary. Definitely sending y'all some good energy. Definitely. Happy birthday to Big Bro Steve for Sunday. And Big Bro Steve is on site. Come on, baby. Yeah, Steve, you got the happy anniversary and the birthday within a few days. That's dope. That is amazing. Also, happy Father's Day to Mr. Caldwell, Queez, Iceberg, Steve, and all the other dads that are part of the OG family. You are all appreciated. And happy Father's Day to you, Big Bro Finn. Happy Father's Day to you. We appreciate all the mothers in our community right now. It's like, well, I gotta say that just to say we appreciate all the moms, of course, but and we appreciate all the fathers. I was getting ready to say, and we appreciate all the fathers. It truly takes a village. We are perhaps mothers and fathers are the best representation of the yin and the yang, of how things can balance, and when they are balanced, that creates the best results. And maybe that's a metaphor for a lot of other things in our lives as well. So shout out to the fathers. Y'all know they be trying to throw y'all. They try to act like it. People forget it's Father's Day. People forget it's Father's Day because I don't see all the stuff y'all doing, trying to sell us on making us feel bad and going to get a gift for mom on Mother's Day. They don't. We know that they don't advertise it as much, but maybe they're not supposed to. Maybe that's just an understanding of, the role that a father plays. And maybe that's a metaphor and just, tells a story about what manhood is. And to each their own, Happy Friday. Blessings to all. It's going to be a great day. Shout out to you, Big Bro Steve. Definitely appreciate that. And happy birthday to you. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the meanings you give your experiences. David Bear. Wow. How did you know we were talking about David Bear today, big bro? I literally have a hold on. Now I got it. Y'all ain't gonna believe me. Y'all are not gonna believe me. Look, I literally have a David Bear video in the queue that I looked at this morning that he just dropped within the last day. And this is one that I was reviewing today. I thought it was dope. We'll share this afterwards to finish it off because it's always good to get the mind right no matter what we're talking about on the show. Get the mind right as we enter the weekend or enter Friday, the last day of the work week, however you want to look at it. We just want to make sure that we're finishing off the show on a optimistic note, as Mama Lay would say. You know, not positive, but optimistic, or, you know, to each their own. To each their own. Let me get rid of that on the screen and let's continue. Happy Friday. Blessings to all. It's going to be a great day. 100%, big bro. Shout out to Bubbles in the building. What's up, Bubbles? Morning, everyone. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. The Honorable Marcus Aurelius. Yeah, man, you deserve it, big bro. You deserve it, big bro. Shout out to Alex in the building. Grand Rising, Alex. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Samira. Rise and grind. You know what it is, sis. Hope all is well. Hope all is well. Let's see. Let's see. Shout out to Zylo. What's up, Zylo? Happy Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth. And it's funny, if you actually saw the thumbnail, I made a mistake because I kept the same "It's all in our minds." I forgot to change the actual Happy Juneteenth. I was going to put Happy Juneteenth. Maybe that's what it was meant to be, because a lot of this stuff is all in our minds. And obviously some things actually happen in reality. And those things were once in our mind, or continue to be in our mind, and I should say continue to be in our minds as well. And perhaps that's some of the biggest impacts that it has on our lives. But neither here nor there. We're going to, and just for a little matter of fact, let me actually share. I think I pulled it up real quick. Hold on. I think I had it in the background. So for those, matter of fact, I don't have it. I had it somewhere else. All right. So for those that aren't familiar with Juneteenth, Juneteenth commemorates June 19th, 1865, the day enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas, finally learned they were free. It stands as the oldest known celebration of the end of slavery in the United States and is often referred to as America's second Independence Day because obviously during the first Independence Day, not everybody was free. The name itself is it's a combination of words. They use some, y'all ever heard the term portmanteau? Portmanteau, combining the words June and 19th. All right, so this is when President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. It had little impact in Texas due to the lack of Union troops available to enforce it, right? No matter what Lincoln decided to say, no matter what get your slavery's done. Yeah, okay. Unless you have the ability to enforce it, obviously it doesn't happen. So Texas became a safe haven for enslavers who moved there to escape the Union's army reach, keeping more than 250,000 people enslaved. So on June 19th, 1865, 2.5 years later, Lincoln's proclamation, and 2 months after the Civil War effectively ended, Union Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston with roughly 2,000 troops, and he stood on Texas soil and he stood on business and read the general's orders, number 3, which famously declared, "The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with the proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves." All right, so just to give a little brief recap on that, that is, and Dantastic said, "Is this live?" Yes, Dantastic. We are live. We are live. And this gives a lot of context. And it's gonna actually have to do with a lot of the conversations that we're having today. So today we're going to focus on a conversation that Stephen A. Smith He's now playing Pierce Morgan. Stephen A. Smith, I Stephen A. Smith is a grifter. I don't even know. I don't even know if I know exactly what that word means, but thinking about how people use it, like grifting off what's like, he's an opportunist to the fullest. And he was having he was hosting a conversation between Officer Tatum and another gentleman, and they were talking about being black first and what that means. Is it right? Is it okay? And Jason Whitlock was the one that was obviously commenting. I shouldn't say obviously. If you know Jason Whitlock and how he feels about Stephen A. Smith, then it may be obvious. But he was commenting on it. He was calling Stephen A. an opportunist. But I don't even really want to focus on Stephen A. or even focus on Officer Tatum or the other gentleman. But I do want to have a conversation on race, what we see each other as first or second. You know, who do I identify with? Am I I'm black first? Am I a man first? Am I a woman first? What are all these things that we identify with, and how it can set a tone on how we perceive the world, and how that impacts different things in our lives and other people's lives as well. The culture of America and the culture of the world. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about, there was a kind of political, but we're not going to go a political way with it. But there was an article that was sent to me that Trump and his administration were trying to get rid of a reparations program, and I believe it was in, what was it, Evanstown? Let me make sure. I think it was in Evanston or Evanston. I think it's Ohio. Yeah, Evanston, Ohio, I believe. I may be wrong. Hold on, let me double check just so I'm not telling y'all the wrong information. I'm sorry, Evanston, Illinois. So there was a reparations program for black residents, and yeah, it's pretty much, you know, it picks out the date, I think somewhere between like 1919 and 1960 something, where, you know, it's to combat or repair the redlining and the discrimination and anything else that may have impacted descendants of slaves from not being able to live in certain areas. And we'll get into it. I'm not sure that I totally understand it, but by the time that we discuss it, I'm confident that we will, or as we're discussing it, I'm confident that I'll gain more of an understanding on it. But I really want to focus on problem solving when it comes to that. And that just being the latest example of how we approach things with such polarity, and how that polarity, in my opinion, is what prevents us from actually being able to come together and unite on any type of reparations, repair, not only for a particular group, but not only a particular group that may have been seen as the victims or that was the victims, but for everybody involved, and how we can move forward from a lot of those situations, and not just move forward, but elevate as we move forward. So we have that, and then that. So we'll focus on the first one. I guess we'll take a look at is, let's take a look at this Jason Whitlock. We'll pull that up. It should already be pulled up. Yes, it is. I already got it queued up for y'all. Let me make sure that y'all haven't had any things. And and Bez brought up a great point. He said, and there were still slaves after that. So regarding Juneteenth, you know, it's one of those things that there were definitely still slaves after that. And it's one of those things where if you can't enforce it, and there's still slaves now, it's actually legal. All you got, when you get locked up, your ass is a slave. And if you want to take it even deeper, I don't know. See, Bad's gonna bring out. You want to take it even deeper? You ain't even got to be locked up. A lot of people locked up here mentally and got that slave mindset. So, but just to kind of give y'all some information on the background around Juneteenth, but definitely appreciate you for pointing that out, bro. And shout out to Mama Lay in the building. Shout out to Mama Lay in the building. Let's actually, all right, let me take a look at your comments, because we'll get right into this. In my opinion, a lot of people feel like they don't have their own identity, so they get really upset at people who do have a sense of identity, whether culturally, gender, etc. Maybe we'll start there. Let's start there. And I think that'll actually give us a nice little lead in. So when it comes to identity, oh, actually, yeah. So that's the one with okay. So that's aligned with the Jason Whitlock video. Originally, I thought that was going to go a different direction, the other way. But when it comes to identity, let's play the video and then Dantastic. I'm gonna leave your video. I'm gonna leave your comment up there, or pull it back up, if I may. And then hold on. I see some of y'all comments. Hold on. When I get so mad when women say happy. All right, so yeah, all right, no, we'll get through it. So yeah, so when it comes to the identity, in my opinion, a lot of people feel like they don't have their own identity, so they get really upset about. I can see that. I can see that. You know, if you don't feel that you take pride in a particular group or you don't have that camaraderie, I mean, that's the same thing where we see with a lot of kids, you know, who don't have an identity, let's say don't have a father in their household. I hate to even bring the conversation there, but maybe I don't hate to. But sometimes a lot of kids join gangs because they don't have a strong sense of family identity. So there is something about, you know, having an identity, taking pride in who you are, understanding who you are, who you came from, and knowing the shoulders that you stand on, knowing your foundation, knowing your history. I think that obviously, what do we talk about? You know, it's hard to know where you're going without knowing where you come from. So all these things can play a role. And I think that our identity, what I wanted to focus the conversation on is, you know, have whatever identity that you choose to, but how does it impact how you view the world? And that's what I want us to focus on when it comes to, as we're watching this video. Have whatever identity you want. I don't think that it's wrong for anybody to have any particular identity. If you see yourself as a woman first, cool, do your thing. If you see yourself as black first, cool, do your thing. If you see yourself as Muslim first, you know, whether you identify with your race, ethnicity, religion, sex, gender, whatever it is that you identify, cool. Identify with that first. But I think where we have to grow and mature overall as a culture is understanding how that shapes how we see things and how that may negatively impact a particular situation. So let's take a look. I saw Samira say, I get so mad when women say happy Father's Day to me when they are single moms. I get so mad when women say happy Father's Day to me when they're single mom. Samir, are you talking about like when they say that they're like, oh, I'm playing the father role? Are you talking about that type of thing? Is that what you're saying? All right. But let's get into this video. Let me know y'all thoughts as we're going, as y'all always do. I'm glad my brother Bez is here. I'm glad my brother Bez is here. Always love having you, bro. Let's see. Let's get y'all thoughts, man. Let's get y'all thoughts. And maybe you don't have to write it in the comments, but think about, who do you identify as first? What do you identify with as first? If somebody says, who are you? What's the first thing that comes to mind? What's the first thing that you would say? And maybe the first thing that comes to mind is not necessarily what you would say, but even if you don't feel comfortable writing it, just think about it. Just think about it as we're going through this. All right, let me kick it over here.
Black First. We're going to talk today about the Black First identity. Stephen A. Smith, the ESPN broadcaster, had a conversation with a guy named Gary Chambers and with Officer Tatum, Brandon Tatum, and they got into a discussion about what's wrong with and how a Black First identity is a priority. I think it's the Gary Chambers that was arguing that he'll always be Black first, and Brandon Tatum was like, I don't think that's appropriate. And Stephen A. went on to defend the Black First identity cult. I don't think Black people recognize how a Black First identity cripples us and them. But let's play the clip.
What the hell is wrong with looking at yourself as Black first before you're anything else? Black before you're American. Black before you're anything else. What's wrong with that?
Okay, because all Black people ain't the same, and like for instance, we all different. So when I say I'm Black, what does that mean? The color of my skin.
Can I interject right
Hold
there?
on, no.
I had the sniffles. My fault, Dad. I'm good. Thank you. Yeah, all right. My bad. All right, so let me get right to it. So I'm glad my dad called me first as soon as it went. But all right, so this is my issue. And I think what happens is like this is a perfect example of how polarity and us being at opposite ends of the spectrum, I think can play a significant role in us not seeing the common sense and having some sort of middle ground. Stephen A. Smith started off by saying, well, what's wrong with being black first? What's wrong with being black first? And then Officer Tatum responded and said, well, because all black people are not alike. And okay, so if I identify as American first, all Americans are not alike. If I identify as a woman first, a man first, all men and women are not alike. Anything that you identify with, you're not going to be all alike. So to me, his response to it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't shift any focus. It's not consistent. But that's what happens when you just have to argue where you got Officer Tatum, he's the super conservative. Gary Chambers, he's the super progressive, super civil rights guy, blackety black. That's his energy from what I know of him. Maybe he's different, and that's from what I know of Tatum. So to me, it's like, let's keep going. Let's keep going. But that's where I'm standing right now as the conversation is unfolded. That makes no sense. What's wrong with identifying as black first? Oh, because all black people are not the same. Okay, well, what do you identify with that makes you the same? If I identify as Christian, are all Christians the same? Let's keep it moving.
American, black before, you're anything else. What's wrong with that?
Okay, because all black people ain't the same. And like, for instance, we all different. So when I say I'm black, what does that mean? The color of my skin.
Can I interject right there?
No. Black people from New York is different than black people from the South. Black people from Africa that came over here as immigrants are very different than African Americans. We're all different. We're diverse like anybody else. When white people say I'm white first, what does that mean?
I would ask that. Forget. I don't want to forget white folks, but I'm like, forget. We're not talking about them at this particular moment. Let's stick with black people in this regard. When you talk about the slave trade, and you said we were enslaved and then traded all over the world. Who were those people? Black people.
Well,
I'm simply saying if you identify with that from an historical perspective, these are my ancestors. This is what we endured. This is where I come from, and that's what I identify with first. Because to some degree, I'm still feeling some remnants of that. Even in today's society, I'm saying if you identify yourself as black before you identify yourself as American, what you're doing is saying, coming out of the womb, I'm going to be at a disadvantage because I'm in America and I'm going to have to scratch and claw and have an uphill climb. Now,
Yeah. This is insane. Coming out of the womb, you're going to have an uphill climb? Just because you're born black? Like, that's what somebody who has a huge influence is telling people? That's what you're going to tell your kid as soon as you're born? Like, yo, you got an uphill battle? Why would you, like, is that true? And then what do we always talk about on this show? What we focus on grows, right? We talked about, a few people have told me that. Mama Lay, you've told me that. I had another buddy of mine, shout out to Corey. He told me this last night, and we were having a conversation. He's like, what you focus on grows. If all we focus on are the uphill battle that we're going to have to climb, we got to work twice as hard. We got to work 10 times as hard. We got to do it. We got to... I just don't get it. I would argue that it's so much... Sometimes it's easier to stand out if you're black. Sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's going to be harder. Sometimes it's going to be easier. But I just don't understand why we push this type of message. And let me be very clear. It doesn't matter. You're not wrong if you identify as Black first. You're not wrong if you identify as Italian first. You're not wrong if you identify as any of these other things. I would call BS on Black people, because Stephen A. and a whole lot of other Black people that talk about they identify as Black first, you're lying. You're BSing. You got your religion from a white man. And from the same white oppressor that Stephen A. is talking about enslaved us. You know, I still got to deal with this slave stuff. I still wake up and when I come out the womb, I gotta deal with all the. It's gonna be an uphill battle, bro. You embrace the religion of these same people that you're not like. You get what I'm saying? And people could talk all the religion came from Africa. The culture that most Black Americans accept when it comes to Christianity was given to you by the same people that were enslaving you. So you can't be sitting here running around talking about your Black first, but then it's inconsistent behavior when it comes to your religion. Now, what I'm saying is, I think that when it comes to Black people, you're not Black first. You're Black when the opportunity presents itself. Stephen A., I'm pretty sure that right now you probably work with a whole bunch more Black people now, and are probably more concerned with who you're hiring, maybe, and different hire. Oh, I want to make sure that I'm hiring Black people. I don't think that was your energy early on when you were first trying to become popular. I'm pretty sure that at that point you work with whoever, right? You work with whoever made sense. And so it creates, it's not realistic in my opinion. And when you got to celebrate it or promote it, in my opinion, it's like I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it. And the one thing that I will say is that, let's say that somebody is Black first. Let's say somebody like Stephen A. Smith. If you are Black first, and Stephen A. Smith, this is something I would like to ask him. How are you trying to run for president? If I was a white person and I had somebody who was, let's say, running as being Black first, and that's how they see themselves, would I want them to be the president of my country? Or would I prefer somebody who's America first? Or if I was white, would I prefer somebody who was white first? I'm just wondering. Because typically, what do we vote for? We vote for who's going to benefit us. We vote with a selfish nature, right? Sense of self. So I'm just asking these questions because this is why I think it's BS. And you have people like Stephen A. Smith that are pushing these type of narratives, saying that there's nothing wrong with it. Then he's going to be the same type of person that runs for America and then say he's America first, and he's trying to say whatever he needs to appeal to whatever other audience he's talking to. He has two Black guys on his show right now. He's always trying to straddle the fence between Democrats and Republicans. He's seen as a cornball. He's seen as a cornball in the Black community. So therefore, he tries to appeal to the Black community. Like, we see the game that's going on. But what I want to ask again is, if it shapes the way that you see the world, especially looking at it from a critical race theory mindset, where we see race first in a lot of areas of our lives, right? If you're Black first, why would I vote? Why would I vote for you to be president of America? And if y'all don't think Stephen A. Smith is running for president, then I don't know where you've been. I just don't know where you've been. Let me check some of these comments. So Alex said, those who were born here identify as African American. White people who are born here don't identify as European American. Okay. Finn said, personally, I just see people. Some are good, not so, but we're all just people. How many times have I said on this show, when I talk about my people, I'm not talking about Black people. I'm being very clear. I'm not talking about Black people. I'm talking about people that I align with when it comes to principles, morals, values, and a sense of decency. Those are my people. I don't understand how we try to, it's natural for us. It's natural for us to get punched in the face and then to think solving the problem is punching somebody else back in the face, punching them back in the face. That may make us feel better, but I don't know if that solves a particular problem. Now, when you have, and typically what we do is, okay, during slavery, a lot of white people saw themselves as white first, right? So that's why they allowed certain things to happen or participated when it comes to slavery. So now our response is to see things as Black first. So I could understand why somebody would feel that they want to identify as Black first, but maybe if you think about it a little deeper, does it align with where we are trying to go with America? And if I'm a Black person in America who's bragging about and promoting being Black first, can I be mad if that other person is white first? So that means when they're hiring certain people, that they're hiring white people first? Like it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't solve a particular problem. And when you live in a country like America, where the majority of people are white, where Stephen A. Smith just said it's an uphill climb. Stephen A. Smith just tried to convince a multimillionaire is trying to convince people that it's an uphill climb to as soon as you get out the womb, as soon as you're Black, right? In America. Now, we're not leaving. We complain about America, but we're not leaving. So if that's the case, and Stephen A. Smith is sitting here saying, what's wrong with being Black first and seeing yourself as Black first? What's wrong with seeing yourself as being white first? Now, when I have a company, I'm hiring all white people first. Now, when I want to hire a plumber, I'm hiring a white plumber first. Now, when I want to buy a car from somebody, I'm going to the white car salesman. You see where it's just the pendulum swinging back and forth, and the pendulum is typically not going to swing as strongly in the Black direction because we're living in America. If we're just being realistic about it. For all the same reasons that Stephen A. Smith is trying to say, oh, as soon as you get out the womb, you know, you got an uphill battle. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Let me, so Dantastic said it's attachment theory. I'm gonna try to make sure I catch up with the comments. It's attachment theory. There's a thing called miscuing. It is the concept where when we are a child facing a new stimuli, we will look to our caregiver to see their reaction to the stimuli to form our own reaction. For example, if my parents were terrified of dogs and never let me near them, I am likely to fear dogs. That's actually interesting because I'm just thinking off the top of my head, when you see kids that fall, like little babies, you ever see a little baby fall or like hit their head and then they look to you to see what your reaction is. And then if you panic, like they start panicking. But if you're just like, yo, you good, chances are, you know, they may, and then they're all right. So that's an interesting concept. Interesting concept. So Alex said, sure, but there's a difference. Black people's ancestors didn't willingly come here. I still think all people need to stop playing the victim card, but let's be real when we talk about, hold on, let me make sure, where they came from. And this is where there can be a middle ground. Samira, I'm with you. I think that there can be a middle ground and has to be a middle ground with all this. It's like you can't have, if you're promoting being Black first and that being okay, then what do you think that does to other people that do not identify with being Black? They're going to naturally do what? Oh, you play for that team? All right, well, I guess I play for this team. I can't be a part of your team, so naturally I'm going to play for the other team, right? Or should I just not have a team? I don't know. But I think we just need to be more aware of how these type of mindsets shape and shift the culture that we live in. Finn said there's a popular video of a Rastafarian man explaining we all just one color on the inside. Best explanation I've ever seen. I. That's something in the Rastafari culture. Something that I learned. You know, when you hear a Rasta say I, they're seeing whoever they're talking to, whoever they're speaking of, as themselves as well. So therefore, they refer to it as I rather than you and me and you, you know, us and them. It's just I. So, yeah, interesting. Steve said, what will it take for us all to move forward from these type of issues that divide us? And this is why I wanted to talk about this particular topic and when we're going to move into the conversation about reparations. I think there needs to be a clear understanding. Now, I know that my parents' generation, they had affirmative action. Now, affirmative action, they had certain programs that were designed to help, in particular, Black people. And these programs were designed to give people opportunities that they did not feel or that may have been treated poorly generations before. But I think there needs to be a very clear beginning and understanding where people can come together and not come together based on Democrat and Republican, because then you're just pushing a particular narrative. It doesn't benefit a Democrat or Republican from coming together. They actually lose their power when they come together compared to when they're polarized. They lose their power. So when it comes to just having a conversation, it's like, yo, why can't we sit down and say, look, things were messed up here in America. We know Black people have suffered in ways that other people didn't suffer. Now, we can never directly tie, who was a descendant of slave and figure out what you're owed, what's fair. There's never going to be a universal acceptance of, okay, this is the exact dollar amount that we feel if we're paid, then, everything will be all right and we can just kumbaya and we'll be good together. We know that that's not realistically going to happen. Now, if we can come together and say, look, things were messed up, let's figure out something. Let's figure out certain programs, but let's have a start date and let's have an end date. Because if there's no clear and committed start date and end date, then we're going to be sitting here 200, 300, 400 years from now, still talking about, oh, we got to have these programs that people are still, we're still suffering from the horrors and the ills of slavery. And it's going to get too much. It's going to become too much. Going back to the example, somebody gets punched in the face. Okay, now I'm going to punch you back in the face once. Now I get to punch you back in the face twice because you shouldn't have done it in the first place. Now I get to punch you. You get what I'm saying? It gets to a point where it's like, okay, now I'm going to punch you back in the face. And now you hit me those 2 extra times. Now I'm going to hit you a third extra. And this is what typically happens. Like, we have to try to figure out a situation where we can come together with some sort of understanding, like, yo, what is it going to take for us to just, instead of having to see each other as Black first or white first or Christian first, as Muslim first, instead of having to see each other as that, what will it take? What does your particular group need? What does your group need? What is your group? Let's figure out some common ground. And once we get, and once those things are done and we agree on those things, after that, look, that's it. I think that it would be the best approach. I think that would be the best approach. Because in a lot of, even when you talk about the reparations, I understand both sides. I understand why somebody may see themselves as Black first, depending on what type of, life that they live. But what I don't agree with, and what I typically find, is that it's the people that didn't even live those lives. Like, it's the Black people that go on TV, like Jasmine Crockett, that is trying to appeal to the lives of what she thinks other Black people lived. And now she's going to try to appeal to those particular lives that she never lived. And when she's trying to appeal to those people, she's leaning in heavy. She's leaning into the victimhood. Now she's creating a sense of entitlement with a group of people. And it's just, I don't think that lands us in a good place. I don't think that lands us in a good place. I don't think that it's beneficial. It's the social programs, like how many, and then it's like, it's like, where does it stop? Where does it stop? Let's keep going. Let's keep going with the convo. Let's keep going. I want to make sure that I'm catching up with a lot of this stuff. Hold on. So Samira said, if the government said today that all Blacks can either stay or go back to Africa and they would pay for it, most would say they are staying right there. So maybe try and be a part. That's a fact. That is a fact. That is a fact. And if you really wanted to go back somewhere, and if America was really so bad, then the government wouldn't even have to pay for you to go somewhere. That's why in a lot of ways, that's why when Black people, this is a side note, this is why Black people better be careful. Black people better be very careful, because all those people, especially if you vote Democrat and you support all of these people coming in here illegally, you support 10 million people coming in here, just know that that's like being on a football team where you have to make the team and you're allowing, they all should be allowed to try out on the team. They all should be allowed to try out on the team. And you sit in the comfort of America the comfort of America, while you've been complaining about the team, not being grateful of the team, all that type of stuff, and maybe rightfully so, to each their own. I'm not arguing that. But just know that those people that you're trying to force ownership to allow to compete, they're going to end up competing with you. And guess what? They want it more. They're willing to run through a wall that you were maybe one day, back in the day, you were willing to run through it, or maybe your ancestors were willing to run through it, but you never were willing to run through it. So now when it comes to black people, all of these people because you get caught up in this democratic liberal mindset, and you're pushing for those agendas and those policies, not realizing like, oh shit, these people that are coming here that I'm fighting for, they're competing with me, not the people that I'm complaining about. They're going to be working for the people that I complain about. They're competing against me. So while you're complaining about America and what America owes you, there's a whole bunch of other people that are willing to walk through hell, literally, to get here. And when they get here, they're ready to work. And we sit here and wonder why the government giving them certain advantages and stuff. Yeah, those people, look, why the Democrats are cool with giving those illegal migrants that come in here all these social programs. They're cool with giving, look, we need them on board. Because those hard workers, if they just walked 1,000 miles to get to America, came through on boats, left their kids, left their family, put their kids through. Do you know the level of commitment and pride that they will take in a particular group that gives them certain benefits so that they can live this American dream? That if you ask a black person, the average black person, about the American dream, what will they say? Ain't no American dream. This is American nightmare. Like, you ever, right? Ask some of these people coming over the border what the American dream is. The American dream for them is a nightmare that we complain about. Now, you tell me who's more likely to make that team. So be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. All right, let's keep it going. And be careful what you allow all these people who just need your vote to create a sense of entitlement and victimhood in you, because a victim competing against somebody else that doesn't see themselves as a victim, who do we think is going to win that battle? It ain't the victim. Let's keep going. And Samir said it right. Hold on, let me blow my nose real quick. Making America better rather than, Samir said it right. You can complain all you want. Feel whatever way that you feel. But what I want people to realize is understand that the message that they're promoting, what type of mindset that's going to put you in. Did LeBron James have an uphill battle? This is the type of, like, I'm going to be real. If you feel, and who am I to say whether or not somebody had an uphill battle? If you feel that you had and it's one of those things where if you believe you can, you're right. If you believe you can't, you're right. If you believe that you had an uphill battle because you're black, who am I to argue with that? Like, okay. But I don't believe in, teaching young kids, even if, let's say that they actually have an uphill battle. Does it even make sense to tell that? Like, I don't know. Nothing will ever be good enough for some people. Let's just be real. Bubble said, I don't care what color someone is. I care what type of person you are. Like that, it's such a low vibrational energy to just make decisions based on somebody's race, in my opinion. And if you are black in America, let me be very clear. All of these successful black people that we're seeing, whether it's Gary Chambers or Stephen A. Smith, I don't know Gary Chambers' life, but I feel like I can say this with confidence. Gary Chambers, you push the Democratic Party, right? Isn't that? Let me look up him real quick. Hold on. Let me Gary Chambers. Is Gary Chambers a Democrat? Let me ask that. So you're a Democrat. I don't see how you could be black first and let me. I don't. I don't see. Miss me with the tough talk. Black first. You're a Democrat. Knock it off, bro. Knock it off. And this is what I mean. All of these people that are claiming that they're black first, like a lot of them got benefits and put in certain positions by white people, by a white political party. Like, so miss me with all the black first. And even when I said when it comes to religion, like, stop it. You're adopting the culture of a white man's religion. Let's just be honest. The white man, yeah, that y'all like to complain about. You adopted a religion that has a white savior, but you talking about you black first. And let me dive into it a little deeper. Well, Jesus wasn't white. He wasn't. Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the culture of the Christianity that was accepted and passed down to by most African Americans, if that's the term that we're using. Yeah. What did Big Mama have with Big Mama's picture in the kitchen of the Last Supper? I guarantee you it wasn't a Negro with an afro. It was the Kenny G looking dude, right? Okay. So let's just be honest about that. And also when it comes to it's like, who put you in that position to where you even have a platform to now say that you're black first? All of these people, they've leveraged whatever it is that they needed to in order to get to a position. But now when they get to this position, they're looking down. And in order to have some sort of, like as Stephen A., he wants to relate, or Jasmine Crockett, I want to relate to the people. So therefore, now I'm going to talk this black first stuff. He's not living like that in his real life. You talking about you black first, bro. You work for ESPN. Knock it off. Create your own network. Like all of these, it's all BS, bro. It's all BS, and I hate it because they're passing down this message to people that have not made it to the level of success, depending on how you view success, the way that they have, and they're passing down this message that they didn't even embrace to get to the top themselves. Let me keep it moving. Let me keep it moving. I'm a little late. If I skip over your comment and your excuses are visible. At the end of the day, your excuses are visible. If I skipped over something, Jasmine Crockett appeals to the Jews. That she sure does. She sure does. That should tell you everything. Like, you black first. All right. Until you need some of that Zionist money. Knock it off. All right, let's keep it moving.
That doesn't mean you give up. That doesn't mean you use it as a crutch. It doesn't mean that you sit up there and use that as a reason to be lackadaisical and have a defeatist attitude and don't work your way and maneuver your way through that terrain in order to get to that point. But it does mean you at least acknowledging that, there are historical, insidious acts that are associated with this particular nation that I live in. And as a result, I recognize the fact that I'm going to have to march forward, and it's going to be a uphill climb for me to get to where I'm going.
Let's also, since Samir brought it up, let's look at maybe some other instances where, people who see themselves as a particular group first and how that impacts different things. The most extreme examples of these, you could say, are Israel. You could say, as a response to that, what does that create? You will say now some extreme Muslims, right? If you look at that region, the actions of extreme Jews, now we don't know what, like, each group will blame the other, right? So the actions of both have created extremism in both, to where now you can't, it's like there will never be peace because you only see yourself as this and you only see yourself as that. And what's so funny about it is y'all are probably more alike than a lot of others, because I don't see a lot of other people on this planet that are willing to go as hard for their religion as those extreme Jewish folk and those extreme Muslim folk. Y'all are actually closer together than the majority of us. But I guess how we view things and how we view ourselves shapes a lot of these cultural battles that we end up having. So it's just I don't know, what is the goal here. Like, what is the goal? I guess for some people, the goal is for them to just unite with their people, to just build with their people. I'm not even saying that that's a problem. That's just not my goal. And living in America and having that goal, if you're Black first, then why don't you go to Africa? Like I'm not telling you in a sarcastic way, but like literally, if I was Black first, why would I not want to go to Africa? It reminds me of like Dr. Umar Johnson. Aren't you the Pan-African guy? You ever heard Dr. African, like Pan-African, that you're promoting, you're a descendant of Marcus Garvey, Pan-African movement. He was trying to get people to go back to Africa. Why don't you be an example? Why don't you go back? I just don't understand why you would want to live in America where you're 10 to 15%, be Black first, but like not want to be in a place where you're like where there's all Black people. You don't even want to live in a neighborhood where there's all Black people, but you're Black first. The majority of all these people, Stephen A. Smith, you think he lives in an all Black neighborhood? You think Gary Chambers lives in an all Black neighborhood? I don't know. But you're Black first. Oh, well, I don't want to live in an all Black neighborhood. Well, there's not as many successful. Well, why don't you move into that all Black neighborhood that you think isn't successful? And for all those reasons that you don't want to live there, maybe that's more important. Maybe it's more important for you to move there so you can help the community. They're all just gaming us. It's just another way of gaming us to get us to hate this group, to hate that group. And it doesn't lead us in any positive direction. But why are we at all surprised? It's like the majority of us, like I'm right as of right now, I'm done voting. I'm done contributing to this system. They got 2 out of me with Barack. Then I stopped voting. They got 1 out of me with Trump. I'm done. I'm no longer participating. It took me 2 times voting to figure out, I don't even want to participate in this. And then I didn't get finessed. I came back and I voted, and now I'm done voting. How long does it take for us to realize that this particular political system with this 2-party dominant system, it doesn't work? But what will we do? We'll just continue to participate in it. We'll complain about the very system, but then the more we complain about it, the more we commit to that very system without realizing like, oh shit, I'm actually buying into it. The more emotional I get and the more they can get me to hate that other side, I actually buy into the system that one person is controlling, but just creating a vision, creating the perception that they're on opposing sides. This is like the simplest thing. What do coaches do at practice? Coaches at practice, where you're on the same team, you get the offense to go against the defense. So, but what is these NBA? What are these NBA or the NFL? I'm not sure which. A lot of them do. I think the NFL it's revenue sharing, right? They all work for the same thing, but they're competing. You get what I'm saying? All of these different groups, they're creating the perception that it's the Democrats versus the Republicans, but obviously the powers that be, they control both. They just play one against each other. So the more we can get upset about one, then you have there was a record voter turnout. They're sitting back like, look at these idiots. Look at all of them. The more they complain about the system, the more they buy in. But we still do it. We still do it. So it's man. Samira said, Obama, our first black president, went in and killed a bunch of Africans to take their resources. You can't make it up, and everyone honored him yesterday. But this is why it just shows the level of when you can get people to spend all of their time arguing about the most simplistic things. They will never even we're still arguing about surface level things and so emotionally attached to it that we never even make it to the next level or even consider that other level. That's why I think the majority of us, we remain so surface level when it comes to our spiritual development. We remain so surface level when it comes to our spiritual development because we're focusing on the news and things that just make us stupid. Things that literally, and I'm not saying this to say that anybody who gets caught up in this stuff, I get caught up in it, we all get caught up in it. But we have to be real about it and saying like, yo, this stuff that we're getting caught up in, I don't think it's really advancing me. And we can get confused and say, well, oh, it's making me more money. Like, oh, this talking about politics is making me more money. When I was talking about politics, reviewing political things, my YouTube account, my YouTube money looked a lot different. I think it's at like $20 if I look at it right now in the last 30 days. It looks a lot different. Let me check. $20.04 the last 30 days on YouTube. It looked a lot different when I was talking about politics more. But sometimes but I tell you what, the spiritual growth that I feel that I've had internally just off the last 3 months, I'll take that. Everything is give and take. Sometimes you got to sacrifice one thing for another. But it's like, what do we prioritize as our success? And I think that when they get us and this is like the whole rat race mentality, they get us to a point where we have to just compete and focus for 40 to 50 hours a week, just doing a 9 to 5, just working to where we can't even concentrate on a lot of these other things. They get us to consume things 24/7. I was watching the video with David Bear. We consume so much content throughout the day, whether it's on our phone, whether it's on TV. It's so easily accessible. We very rarely take time just to be still and just to be silent. Like we search for answers. Matter of fact, we don't search for answers. Think about all the times that you've been just silent with yourself at certain times where you just go for a walk. You may just be sitting outside looking at nature, whatever it may be, and you'll have this idea come to you. We don't have that. We have less and less of that because it's hard for me to take a shower without putting the damn phone on YouTube and listening to something on YouTube. It's hard for me to even shower without that. All we're doing is consuming, and when we consume, we're being controlled, and the more we consume, the less spiritual we're becoming. And it's almost to the point where you talk about spirituality and somebody makes it seem like you're talking about something that's like such a foreign concept. Like you talking about aliens or talking like spirituality. Like that's how out of touch we are with certain aspects of reality. But to each their own. To each their own. Let's keep going with this. Let's see what else they got to say.
If somebody identifies that with blackness, you can do that.
Stephen A. Smith is a cancer to the American media. That you could sit there and be paid $20 million a year by ESPN, 10, 15, who knows, maybe 20 from Sirius XM, and be as unqualified as Stephen A. Smith, and then make the argument that there's all these historical disadvantages, uphill climb. Stephen A.'s entire career has been on a downhill slope, and I'm not talking about but I'm talking about it's been as easy as running downhill. And white people, if they wanted to, and some are saying like, hey, Stephen A., in the 58, 59 years you've been on this planet. You've never run uphill. That the entire American system for 60 years has been making it so you run downhill while white people and Asians run uphill. Don't tell me about 150 years ago and slavery, something you did not experience.
I get all the sides. I get all the sides. And what Jason Whitlock just referenced, even when you think about a lot of these test scores, why does an Asian kid have to score 200, 300 points higher than a black kid to get into Harvard? Like, shouldn't the goal be for like the average black score to get into Harvard is similar to the average Asian, is similar to the average white, is similar to the average Jewish kid? Like, shouldn't the goal be for it to be consistent across the board? And if that should be the goal, hold on, stick with me. If that should be the goal, then what is the best way to get there? Do you think us as humans, do we become faster by, we got 3 people racing, 4 people racing, and the goal isn't for me to give the black kid who's racing, because he's had discrimination in the past, to give him steroids or to give him a boost or to let him start 5 meters ahead or 10 meters ahead, or make the Asian kid start 10 meters back. I don't think that should be the goal. And I don't think that is what makes that black kid faster, by starting somebody else off behind or starting him off forward. I actually think that that's going to make that Asian kid become faster. And it's going to cripple the young black kid who now thinks that they're winning races because they started off with a 10-meter lead or a 15-meter lead. Now, a lot of people will say, Stephen A. Smith will say, well, for the longest, black people have started off with, started off 50 meters behind. For the longest? For you? Or you mean, oh, people who were enslaved? Oh, Jim, okay. Well, if that's the case, then when you go back to look at these numbers of when we were living during Jim Crow, how come black people were more successful in a lot of different ways when you look at economics right after slavery compared to now? After all the social programs, after all those 10-meter head starts, after putting everybody else behind, you're crippling the kid and you don't even realize it. What I would argue is that if you start me behind and I got to constantly work to catch up, eventually I'm going to become faster because I'm forced to put in more work than that person that I'm competing against. Why would I rob somebody of that opportunity? When I rob somebody of the opportunity to work harder to chase, let's look at our lives. Most of us, when we're chasing something, I bet we work a lot harder to when we get the spoils of all those things that we were chasing. Now we're on top. What do we tend to do? We tend to relax. But at least when you're chasing something and you reach a certain level and you get that goal, that trophy, now when you relax, at least you have the understanding and the history and the lessons of what it took to chase. When it comes to what we're creating right now, you're giving people these trophies to where they didn't even have to run the race the same way as everybody else. And now they've created a sense of comfort and they can't even now lean on and say, well, shit, at least I got the experience of what I worked my ass off to get here for. No, you don't. How can you have a kid that you coddle, that you give certain advantages to because their father had certain disadvantages? Now you're going to give advantages to that kid. What do we always talk about? Hard times create what? Strong men. So when you make these easier times, what do those easier times create? Weak men. So when you give all these benefits, whether it comes in the form of social programs or in my example of giving a kid a head start or allowing a kid to get into a college that other kids have to work harder for and score higher for, what do we think that that's creating? It's creating a sense, it's creating a weakness, it's crippling them. But we're celebrating because we think that we're giving these kids opportunities when giving somebody, in my opinion, never allows you the biggest benefit of winning. The biggest benefit of winning a championship is not them presenting you the trophy. The biggest benefit is learning from the experience that it took for you to get to that championship. That was the biggest benefit. But all the liberal, all the Democrat, all the stuff that because people feel that they're entitled to something more and because they don't feel like working for it anymore, now they feel like, okay, we're going to pass that down onto the next generation. And it think about your own life. Where did you get the biggest gains from? Where did you have your largest growth from? It probably came from the times that you were challenged the most. So why rob somebody of being challenged of those things? Yes, okay, if things aren't fair, okay, things aren't fair. Let's say that things aren't fair. Let's say that things are exactly what Stephen A. said. Let's say that just a black kid, as soon as they come out the womb, life's going to be harder for them. If I'm in the jungle and life is going to be harder for me, do you think that I want to make things easier for my kid? Let's say that I'm a gazelle and I have a baby gazelle. And if I'm trying to tell that gazelle, yo, life is going to be hard. There's going to be lions out here hunting you down. Do you think I'm going to try to make things easier for that gazelle? Do you think I'm going to try to coddle that gazelle? Or I'm going to try to have that gazelle go through as much as possible so that they can be put in the best physical shape, have the best mindset. Now, that's not fun, maybe. That's not enjoyable. But that's life, right? That's the jungle. Why are we doing the opposite when it comes to our kids and then surprised when they become 30, 40, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, and they can't figure it out? And now those same 40, 50, and 60-year-olds that had things easier, now they're going to be raising those same hard times create strong men create easy times create weak men. Now those weak men are raising the next generation of kids with a sense of entitlement, a sense of victimhood. How do we think this is going to pan out? I'll tell you how it's going to pan out. It's going to get real difficult for that next generation. But that next generation, when it does become very difficult, what are they going to do? Because those hard times are now going to make them stronger. But if you instead make it easier for them, and the answer is to always make things easier for the next generation because they're going to be even weaker. So now the answer is to make things even easier. What you're going to do is create even more of a divide between that particular group of victims and everybody else. So now when it comes specifically to black people, we're not closing the gap, we're widening the gap. This is why when you look at, when I said earlier, after slavery, black people were doing better. Black people came right out of slavery, taking advantage of opportunities, forced to work together as a family. All these different things that we were better off. Now look. The more social programs that we got, the more affirmative action, the more DEI, all of these things that people try to dangle in front of us that they're going to make our lives better. No, they're going to make our lives easier because they provide a certain level of instant gratification and they feed into this victimhood narrative that people like Stephen A. push, talking this dumb shit like as soon as you come out the womb, life is going to be hard for you. So now it's like, okay, since life is going to be so hard for me, let's make it easier. So it's okay for me to accept this participation trophy. It's okay for me to accept this advantage because life is going to be hard. And then all we're doing is widening the gap. So now those young black kids that end up becoming black men, they will never be able to compete. And instead of once you can't compete, and they realize they can't compete. Now it's just like, well, I'm entitled to this. I need this advantage. I need that advantage. And the cycle continues. Big Bro Steve said, I think people responding to resistance that the nature of living provides stimulates personal growth and opportunities for greatness. Yes. Lean in. The mindset, what if the mindset of a man, like when you think back to these movies, like did y'all not watch 300? How they treated those young Spartan men and how those Spartan men became some of the most manly man strong. Yeah, that's yo. You know what's so funny? There's wealthy families. The wealthy families, while one group is looking for advantages and trying to make their life softer and better and all these other things that make their life easier and easier for them to win, the people that are actually winning, you know that their biggest challenge, like when you have somebody that's first generation rich, and I've talked to these type of people, and I'm sure y'all have too. Their biggest challenge now is instilling the values and lessons that they learned through going through all the trials and tribulations, going through all the mud and coming out better and still winning. Now they got to figure out a way to teach their soft kids who never grew up going through the same things that they had to go through. Now, how do I teach these kids these lessons rather than just having them grow up as just spoiled little soft kids? So once again, it goes back to, okay, we understand. Let's look at our situation. Let's look at the country. There's been certain disadvantages. This is where what's wrong with having a certain level of balance? There's been certain disadvantages. How can we figure out a way to maybe create an environment to where people can work for something? And you know what's funny about nature, and what I'm thinking about as you write that comment, Steve? Like nature, I don't know if the excuses are visible or if there's no. You very rarely see an overweight cheetah. An overweight cheetah is a dead cheetah. An overweight lion is a female lion you're not going to eat. An overweight gazelle is a dead gazelle. You're a victim. You're vulnerable. So nature trains those gazelles in a way where it's very clear, if you're not in shape and fast, you're going to die. But what is our nature? What does our nature become? Well, if that person's not in shape and they're obese, it's okay. We'll just have plus size models in Nike. Nike's supposed to be about being in shape and being healthy, but to make those people feel more comfortable about being out of shape and more likely to die earlier, more likely to have high blood pressure, diabetes, more likely to have all these things. If we could just make them feel more comfortable, then let's just do it. We can even look at it as a business opportunity, and we can make a lot of money because now we don't even have to sell to just the small people. We could sell to the big people as well. We keep getting manipulated. Whether, and speaking of the manipulation, maybe I'll go a little bit of a different direction than I wasn't expecting to go right now. Speaking of the manipulation, look at your boy Jay-Z. Look at your boy Jay-Z. Just signed a deal with Target. Once again. And I promise you, Queez, I didn't see that you just jumped on. Look at your man's Jay-Z. Once again, he finesses black people. And this is what happens. Black people are so, like, when you create a group that where you tell them they're entitled to so much, you can always take advantage of feeding them BS. Jay-Z, what did he do? He told Jermaine Dupri, he told black people, boycott the Super Bowl. The NFL ain't treating Kaepernick right. Some people did, most people didn't. What does Jay-Z do? Oh yeah, now I'm working with the NFL. Yo, niggas, we done kneeling. And what did all the black people that are fans of him do? Well, let's give him the benefit of doubt. What did Jay-Z do with the Barclays Center? I remember when he came out with that 444 album. He was talking about gentrification and how y'all niggas getting played by gentrification, but I'm on another tax bracket, so therefore I take it. You know what I mean? Don't let the gentrification screw you over because, right? That's Stephen A. Smith trying to appeal to the niggas at a particular time when it makes sense to appeal to the niggas. But then what is Jay-Z doing behind the scenes? He's allowing himself to be used as blackface for the biggest gentrification project that we talked about the other day in New York City, maybe in recent years, the Barclays Center. He's allowing himself to be used. Manipulation. So let me get this straight. The guy that started off his career and why we worship Jay-Z is hilarious, but it's telling about black people overall. We worship the guy that made money selling drugs and spreading poison to our people. We made money selling. Okay. Then he raps about selling drugs to the people and makes even more money. Then he does the Kaepernick thing, right? Like black people look up to him like he's a god, right? He does the Kaepernick thing and uses his godlike status to pretty much do what? To align himself with the Kaepernick movement, something that he never had to take any risk for. He never had to lose a job. He never had to take a knee. He never had to do any of these things. So he convinces himself to be the black face and the black representative to all these black people. So now he's the middleman. Oh, y'all wanna repair relationships with the black community? You got to come through me. So the NFL reaches out to him and says, yo, let's do a deal, man. We'll bring you on board. Yo, we can't have this issue with Kaepernick. We got to move beyond this stuff. You know, we trying to appeal to the players and not make the players feel bad. But then all of our viewers, they getting pissed off with this stuff. We just got to move past it. Jay-Z comes out and says, yo, we beyond kneeling. You never knelt. You never took a knee. What are you talking about, brother? So then what happens? Then we give him the benefit of doubt. The Barclays, and I think the Barclays happened before that. The Barclays happened. He convinces all these black people to be cool with this gentrification project, destroying all these black homes to where they raise the value of everything in that area now, right? Because the Barclays came in. What came in with Barclays? Starbucks. What came in with Starbucks? Whole Foods. Now people living in those communities can no longer afford to live in those communities, but we just like Jay-Z, so we was rocking with it, right? Then you find out he don't even own, he owned 1% of 1% and then sold that minimum percentage. Now he's doing a deal with Target. Black people were boycotting Target, I thought, right? Oh, but now Hove comes. He does a deal with Target. Do you see how easy it is for black people to get manipulated when you have all of these people that just grift and try to convince us that we are victims, so therefore they can look at us or they want us looking at them as their savior? So now we'll put all of our prayers in Jasmine Crockett. We'll put all of our faith in whatever black leader is trying to appeal to us. We'll put our faith in whatever Democratic Party is now telling us that we deserve reparations. But then when they actually get in a position of power, you don't hear any reparation talk. We put all of our, I don't even want to get into the religion. Won't get into it. Won't even get into it. And then this is the thing. Queens, great point. But were black people really boycotting Target? I wasn't. I don't do all these goofy, like, it's all goofy. It's all goofy in my opinion. And the goofiness just plays out. It's all faddish. Like, oh, what's the fad? I remember seeing people jumping out there when it was COVID and everybody was bored at home and then George Floyd was killed. Now y'all at protests and marches. Like, knock it off, bro. You're not even like that. I know you're not like that because when I was really like that, When I was really like that, pushing that black stuff, pushing that blackety black stuff that I can't stand now, I was the only person doing it. I was standing on it. And all y'all who go to these protests and marches, y'all weren't standing on it then. I was telling my job, yo, I'm going to miss work today. The CFL, I need to leave Canada. I'm not going to be at practice this day, coach. I got to go down to this 1,000,000-man march. Excuse me, Caldwell, you're not a starter. You're not one of our best players. Who does this guy think he is? He about to just call out of practice. Like, that's what I was on. So it's half stepping with all of this stuff. It's half stepping. And when you really go hard with it, you realize this. That's why it's important sometimes to lean into something. Because when I leaned into that, it allowed me to see what it really was. I'm like, hold up, these people not really like that. They're just using it for political gains or for whatever else. I know people that have let me be careful with this. I know people that have gotten promotions based on using this black stuff, right? But then when I actually talk to them about like black stuff, they looking at me like, nigga, are you crazy? Like, I'm not like, you thought that? No, I just used that to get a promotion. I'm not really that. And you start to scratch your head. You like, oh, damn. Like, this is all just a play. But the people that are getting played, they don't realize they're getting. Oh, man. Yeah. That's all it is, bro. Save ourselves. Don't look for anyone to be a savior. Don't look for anyone to be a savior. We have to be our own leaders. We have to be our own bank. We have to be our own everything. Tupac Shakur, man. I love that Pac quote. I love the Pac quote. It's yeah. So I guess we were supposed to talk about let me charge my computer a little bit. We were supposed to talk about the reparations in Evanston, Illinois. I think it's Evanston. We'll talk a little bit about that, but then we'll move on to, and I don't know if there's really much to add on to it, but I'll finish off saying this. I understand. And you know what would have been a lot better, perhaps, is if America would have addressed this issue a lot earlier and just been very clear. But see, there's a few different problems when it comes to America, in my opinion, that keep this reparation talk going. There's the problem that a lot of people feel that America never addressed it. So a lot of people feel that America never addressed it. Like, yo, we did something, we were messed up. And think about the times, even in our own lives, when you apologize for something and then put forth a certain effort to show like, yo, I apologize, I was wrong with this. And, here's how I'm going to, fix the situation. The earlier you do it, the better. But when you wait and then people develop a certain sense of resentment, and that resentment's passed on from generation to generation, you have to address things head on, straightforward, and be clear. Like, yo, I was wrong. This is what I'm doing to make up for it. Once I make up for it, don't expect me to keep like we're moving on. Like if you accept this, then we're moving on after that. You're not going to keep coming back to me trying to make me feel bad, guilt tripping me into milking this thing out. Now, whatever that agreement was, okay, boom. But what has happened here? Because America didn't address it initially, now it just created this continued resentment. And now we're in a position where it's like we're still like, at what point do we have repair with reparations, right? To where we can move forward. At what point is it? And the second area that I want to focus on is that when you have a political party that benefits from convincing you that you are owed something, that's the easiest way for them to get your loyalty. It's for them to convince you, yo, you owed something. You can't get it back by yourself, but guess who can? If you vote for me, if you donate to my campaign, Okay, so looking at it from their standpoint, do they ever benefit from you actually receiving that repair? Or do they benefit more when you are broken and still dependent upon them? So now you have both groups that have no interest in helping you in particular, but the one group that has a more sexier appeal, they're the ones that are actually hindering you the most. But it feels good. So therefore you keep buying into it. It feels good when somebody can tell you like, yo, you ain't shit, but it's cool. You ain't shit because of all these reasons. Oh, you didn't know? That impacted this. That the reason why you're not successful in 2026 is because we had slavery 250 years ago. You didn't know that? But I can help you. And then they won't even look. It's like we don't even look at, yo, has this actually helped us? What if all these social programs? What was Lyndon B. Johnson's goal with the social programs? What did he say how this would impact Black people, these social programs? Now, did they feel good at the time? Maybe, perhaps, but maybe it's just another example that we need a mindset shift rather than any money or rather than any programs, especially a program that is just not going to teach you how to learn how to fish on your own, but is just going to continue giving you the worst type of fish, government cheese, government assistance. They're going to give you all those things so you become dependent on it, and it really just makes you weaker and weaker. So now every generation becomes harder and harder to compete with the people that are actually running stuff. So the people that are actually giving you stuff, you think that they're giving you something and it's benefiting you when in all actuality, they're just widening the gap to where your capability is with somebody else when it comes to competing. So that's how I look at it. That's how I look at it. Finesse. I like that. I like that. All right, let's move on. Let's not do the reparations. I think we kind of touched on that, but I just wanted to be clear. Yo, let's come to the table. I know I keep saying the same thing, but I just want to make sure that I'm being clear because every time I feel like I'm being clear, I start going off on another tangent. Yes, there should be some repair. I don't know what that repair is. But I don't think that I think we need to be very well aware of the people, like us, the people getting manipulated into going one way or another and how people use this reparation stuff and they dangle it to divide us rather than to create some sort of solution that will empower those people that, you know, we feel that need a little bit more help, that need a little bit more repair because of things that they suffered. Okay, let's empower them. And perhaps with nature, I would argue that just like with nature, you know, when you have it eventually, it's like things work in. We watch the finals with the Spurs and the Knicks. Those games, they happen in what is it called? Like momentum shifts, right? The Spurs will go up. And naturally, what happens when you go up? You start to relax. You don't keep your foot on the gas. I remember watching the game and my dad was saying, yo, the Spurs got too comfortable. They're playing differently. They're trying to just keep the lead rather than trying to just do what they were doing in order to get the lead. They had their foot on the gas. Now they're just like, hold up, let's just not mess this thing up. And what ended up happening, the Knicks, they're in chase mode. They don't have time to think about, well, let's just relax. You know, let's not mess this up. Bro, you're down 29. You're down 15 with a few minutes to go. Like you're in a different type of mode. And that particular mode, that's nature. We rest when we're comfortable. When we're not comfortable and our back's against the wall, how do we tend to react? We react with more urgency when our back's against the wall compared to when our feet are up. What did Marvin Hagler say? It's hard to train the same way when you're sleeping on $1,000 satin sheets than when you were before. It's just human nature. So therefore, let's use this as a benefit, you know, and that doesn't mean that there's no repair given, but because things have escalated for so long and that gap has widened so much, and it's going to continue to widen when we approach things this way. Those reparations, it's like the group that feels that they need reparations, they feel that they need even more reparations because the gap has now widened even more. And we don't even realize it because the gap has not widened with, let's say, legal, lawful discrimination, which would be just slavery, right? Just think about it. Could the gap be any wider from you have white people that can own slaves, black people are slaves? Can it get any wider than that? So how right after that were we able to compete and grow at a higher, you get what I'm saying? How were we able to compete better then than it is now? Because the gap has gotten wider and wider when you convince a group of people that they're victims and they deserve something, and you give them things rather than allowing nature to just naturally respond. Because what's going to happen? The weak going to die out, right? The weak die out. And that's a real understanding. When you have an understanding of like, yo, either you get in shape or you get cut. That's competitiveness. That's why the NFL is what the NFL is. Because you have all these people that are willing to die in order to accomplish something compared to, let's say, a different league where there's not as many people trying to compete. The weak fall off. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's move on to David Bear. We probably won't watch all of this because it's about 30 minutes long, but I think we can get something from just even the first few minutes. So let's take a look at this.
You ever wonder
Let me actually make sure I didn't have any comments. Hold on, let me make sure. All right, nice, grab that bit. Yeah, y'all doing your own thing. I love when y'all be having your own I love when y'all have your own conversation when we have a separate conversation of growth in the chat as well. Let's do this. All right. Shout out to my guy, David Bear. And shout out to us, man. We got one copyright strike out of there. I forgot to even look at it. One copyright strike is 90 days done. I'm feeling a little bit safer reviewing videos. And then the next one, I don't want to jinx it, but we may have a celebration on Monday or maybe Tuesday. Either way. But let's keep going. Y'all know I get pulled in different directions.
You ever wonder why some people spend 20 years visualizing abundance and never become abundant, while someone else gets hit with one crystal clear vision that changes the trajectory of their entire life? See, 99% of people completely misunderstand the concept of visualization. We've been taught to wake up every morning, turn on a 528 hertz frequency track, close our eyes, and concentrate as hard as we can on the life that we want. But if the universe is intelligent, omniscient, loving, and infinitely creative, why would it need to hear your request every single day? What if visualization isn't a broadcast? What if it's a reception, and your only job is to become quiet enough to hear it? That's what we're going to explore today, because once you understand this ancient way of visualizing, you stop chasing your future, and your future starts finding you. All right, guys, I'm going to start with the spoiler alert for this episode, and then we're going to unpack it together. Two things. Number one, visualization is not something that you do. Visualization is something that happens to you. And number two, people who sit down and visualize every single day are actually doing the one thing that is going to prevent their vision from materializing into reality. I want to start with number two, and I want you to think about this for a minute. Right? Because the golden equation that I've taught on so many episodes is that desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. If you can have a desire and function with a down-regulated nervous system, if you can remove any of the limiting beliefs or the traumas or the stories that move you into a negative emotional state, if you can be clear in your relationship with your desire, 100% of the time, consistently and predictably, it will materialize into your reality. So think about what this sitting down every single morning visualizing actually indicates. It is a symptom of resistance. It is the idea that I will sit down, universe, and do a thing that I think you need me to do in order to produce the result that I want. Does that feel good? Now, if you enjoy
that's a great point, and that's something that I'm not conflicted on this, but I'm learning his viewpoint and trying to also consider some of the other things that I've learned with, I think he's going to mention Neville Goddard, but also Napoleon Hill. You know, when we talked about having a chief aim and repeating these things, repeating this chief aim, repeating this declaration to the universe, and adding a sense of visualization to that, is that doing the same thing that sometimes we struggle with when we pray? Sometimes we're focusing on, not only focusing on, let's say, the negative and what if the negative result happens, or focusing on, I don't want this to happen. Please free me of this sickness, free me of this sickness, free me of this sickness. So my mind is focusing on the sickness, not able to realize, no, I'm focusing on freeing me of the sickness, healing me of the sickness. Is the visualization creating some sort of anxiety and stress? Because the more I visualize, close my eyes and visualize the life that I want and where I see things, and I'm putting a date on it, is that now causing me, when I open my eyes, to be like, oh, damn, more stress, and just rather than to just letting go and letting the universe do its thing? Am I creating more tension and anxiety around it? So I don't know. I don't know. But this is an interesting thing for me. What do y'all feel? To those that visualize, to those that meditate, what do you feel? Those that do affirmations, how do you think, like, what are you thinking so far as what David Bear is saying?
Sitting down in the morning and spending 10 to 20 minutes every single day in your vision, by all means do it. But if you really check in with yourself, most of the time we're negotiating with reality. And one of the ideas that completely transformed the way that I think about visualization came from the mystic Neville Goddard. He wrote something so simple yet so radical that I couldn't stop thinking about it when I first heard it. He said, creation is already finished. What he said was, all things that ever will be, have been, are created, exist right now in this field called the fourth dimension. And at first I read those words the same way most people probably do. They sounded poetic, maybe even a little abstract. But the more I sat with this idea that creation is already finished, the more unsettling it actually became. Because if creation is finished, then that means that the life that you're trying so desperately to build may not actually need to be built at all. It means that every possibility that we could possibly think of already exists. Every business that you could create, every relationship that you could experience, every version of yourself that you long to become is already present as a potential within consciousness. The future isn't waiting for you to manufacture it through enough affirmations or enough vision boards or enough hours spent sitting cross-legged with your eyes closed. Instead, it's waiting for you to become capable of perceiving it. Now, that's a completely different paradigm. See, most of us have been taught that visualization is an act of imagination, that we're supposed to mentally fabricate a future and then somehow project it into the universe with enough emotion that reality eventually catches up.
How many times have we talked about on this show when we're talking about visualizing the things that we want, meditating, using every single sense? What is it going to feel like? What is it going to smell like? What are we going to be eating there? What's the experience? Who's going to be around? How many times have we talked about visualization and incorporating every single sense? I'm listening, and I'm taking in what David Bear is saying.
But what if that's backwards? What if visualization isn't an act of imagination at all? What if it's an act of revelation? And I love this distinction. And it makes me laugh because I think about all the years that I sat down and I'm like, if I can just visualize hard enough. And now I got to infuse it with emotion because that's what teachers say. And I got to project it out into reality. I can get the thing. I'm like, oh my God, look how much resistance was there. Right? But this idea that reality is already complete and we're not trying to project, we're trying to receive, completely changes the role that we play in the process, because you're no longer trying to invent your future. You're remembering a future that already exists beyond your current perception. That's pretty cool. You're not forcing an image onto reality. You're becoming still enough that reality can reveal something to you that your anxious, overthinking mind can't perceive. And so when you
want to run part of that back again. So it says you're no longer trying to invent your future. You're remembering a future that already exists beyond your current perception. He had another video that he was talking about this, and it was like, we have to remember. I actually did like a walk and talk about it. I don't even think I put it out, but it's like remembering your future. And when you remember your future, then it doesn't put the anxiety on or pressure on it happening. It allows you to just, oh yeah, accept it. But it's like, okay, if I remember, I remember that this is getting ready to happen. Okay, boom. Then I'm just accepting it and I'm putting out that type of energy. So all of this stuff, look, we all just trying to figure this stuff out and become better creators, right? So, and I saw Mama Lay write something. So Mama Lay says, I don't believe in affirmations. I believe in alignment. Okay. Okay. Visualization, perhaps. Affirmations for me are convincing yourself to become who you already are. Okay. And I think this is an example of to each, their own. And it depends on how you explain it, how you receive information. Because a lot of us, when we say who we already are, a lot of us are not behaving, who we already are. And, are we, if we're doing a lot of evil actions, and let's say that we're doing a lot of wrong, are we not those wrong things that we're doing? Some people may say, well, you are those wrong things that you're doing, but you need to adjust and then become the positive things that you're doing. Or some people may say, no, you're positive, but you're just doing wrong things, or you're whatever it is. So yeah, I guess it's however you word it. I think that, affirmations can serve as a reminder of, reminding us maybe, who we are. And sometimes maybe we do need some convincing. But I guess it's different for everybody. I don't know if there's an exact answer. I don't know. But whatever works best for you. And maybe this is one of those things where you can try different things out, see what the results are, and move from there. But I just don't know if there's a one size fits all process for everybody.
Exists beyond your current perception. That's pretty cool. You're not forcing an image onto reality. You're becoming still enough that reality can reveal something to you that your anxious, overthinking mind can't perceive. And so when you look at it this way, the question is no longer, how can I get better at visualizing? The question becomes, what is inside of me that is preventing me from receiving the vision that's already trying to get to me? And that single shift changes everything, because instead of trying to become a more powerful broadcaster, you start the work of becoming a clearer vessel. You stop obsessing over techniques and you start paying attention to the interference and the resistance that's inside of you, and you become interested in your subconscious beliefs, the unresolved grief, the old shame, the chronic tension that is inside your nervous system, because you realize that those things aren't just making you suffer, they're actually creating internal static. Imagine trying to tune an old radio and to hear it while someone is standing beside you with a leaf blower, like running at full volume. The music is still coming out of the receiver. The station never stopped broadcasting, but you can't hear it because the noise is drowning out the signal. And I think that's exactly what trauma does to the nervous system. I think that's what limiting beliefs do. They create so much internal noise that the deeper intelligence that is inside of you can barely be perceived. And then we mistakenly conclude that our calling is absent, that we don't know how to visualize or imagine properly, when the truth may be that it's been there the whole time. But the whole picture has always been there for you. You just simply haven't become still enough to hear it. And so the more I began thinking about this idea, the more I realized that almost everything I'd ever been taught about visualization rested on a single assumption that my future did not yet exist. And that assumption is so deeply woven into modern personal development that we rarely stop to question it. We assume our job is to sit quietly, imagine a future that isn't real yet, and project it onto the field or the screen of reality, to somehow convince the universe through our practice and our desire to manufacture it on our behalf. But
I'm not sure if I see it that way or if I see it a different way. I don't think that my future already exists. I think that my actions future already exist. So, for example, my future can go a bunch of different ways based on the decisions that I make with my actions. And I relate things to sports all the time. If I grow up, growing up, if let's say if I just, sat back, and there's a lot of kids that believe that they were going to the NFL. Let's say that. I'm gonna use myself as an example. There's a lot of kids that I grew up with that believed that they were going to the NFL. I don't think that God just chose me when I was born or before I was born, when the seed met the egg, or however you look at it. Yeah. I don't think upon conception that I'm going to go to the NFL. I think there was a bunch of different things that I could have chosen to do. And just like a lot of other young kids visualize certain things, and there's a lot of, let me just stick with this. The difference was the actions and the decisions. So I don't think that my future already exists in a sense of it's already chosen. You could say that it already exists as far as, it's nothing, everything's like, let's say life is always on repeat, everything. I don't know, however you look at it, but I don't think that my future already exists and I could just sit back and now just wait for it to happen. I don't want that future that's going to come with me just sitting back and waiting for whatever to happen. I believe that your actions dictate whatever future is going to be manifested. And I believe that's why it's so important for us to adjust our mindset. Because the whole point, for me, I thought, now maybe it's different. I do believe that you put out a certain energy and radio frequency, whatever, to the universe, and it invites different opportunities. But the only way that you can take advantage of those opportunities is that if your mindset, let's say, is I want to make it to the NFL, but that just makes it as I'm going to make it to the NFL. So therefore, I'm preparing with my actions to make it to the NFL. Because if my actions aren't aligned with it, if my actions, let me rephrase that. I can have the opportunity present itself that aligns with what I want to do. But if my actions didn't prepare me to take advantage of that opportunity, then it doesn't matter. I'm not going to make the team. So that's kind of how I look at it. I think that actions are most important, but what influence most of our actions? Our mindset. So you could say, I guess, the mindset, because that's first. That's what's most important. I think, okay. But I think what separates most people is having the actions that align. So when those opportunities do present themselves, you can go take advantage of them. But yeah, I'm not sure. And to each their own. And I think that's one thing that a lot of us have to do. A lot of people, when it comes to this type of stuff, will give other people advice. And to me, the best, if you're giving me advice, then I would love to see, how your way of looking at it, like, how did you manifest certain things? And then I'm willing to, I think more of us just in general would be more willing to buy in. I don't ever want to say this is how you have to do this when it comes to manifesting. I just don't, I'm figuring it out as I go. But I think everybody may have a little bit of a different way of leading to them getting the desired results that they want. I'm not sure. Some people may believe that, hey, this is a set way of doing things. I guess so. I'm kind of up in the air when it comes to that.
Again, what if that assumption is wrong? What if the future isn't waiting to be created at all? What if it already exists, not in physical form, but as an energetic potential in the field of consciousness itself? What if the entrepreneur that you're capable of becoming, the marriage that you're capable of having, the body that you're capable of inhabiting, and the contribution that you're capable of making in the world already exists as a reality that's just waiting to be embodied? If that's true, then the work of your life changes dramatically. And this is, there's so many great paradoxes.
I got to listen to that one again, especially when it comes to the body one. I think that may show, for me, that brings about some clarity. Let me listen.
As a reality that's just waiting to be embodied. What if the entrepreneur that you're capable of becoming, the marriage that you're capable of having, the body that you're capable of inhabiting, and the contribution that you're capable of making in the world already exists as a reality that's just waiting to be embodied?
I mean, that's a safe way of saying it, I guess. Like, what if the body of your dreams is just waiting for you? Yeah, it's waiting for you to put in the work, to put in the actions. So you can't wait, but that may be waiting. It's waiting for you to do all of the things that you need to do in order to produce the outcome or give you the greatest likelihood of producing the outcome that you're looking for. You can't just sit back and wait for, it doesn't matter. Look, when it comes to, if you want that dream body, there's nothing. You can't think your way or align your way to having that dream body that you want, in my opinion, unless that alignment includes the actions that are ultimately going to produce that, the actions of working out, the actions of making sure that you're eating certain things, the actions of making sure that you're getting your protein, getting, your calories, you're burning as many. But that's the thing. He may just be looking at it one way, which I can definitely, no matter what, I think this is what we should do. I can take away valuable lessons from what he's saying and apply them and put that into my tool bag and have something else that can help me get closer and closer to whatever it is that I'm looking to manifest.
What if the entrepreneur that you're capable of becoming, the marriage that you're capable of having, the body that you're capable of inhabiting, and the contribution that you're capable of making in the world already exists as a reality that's just waiting to be embodied? If that's true, then the work of your life changes dramatically. And this is, there's so many great paradoxes in personal growth where when you actually understand how it probably works, it's completely the opposite of how we've been indoctrinated and domesticated into believing reality works. Because in this case, you stop trying to create a future through force and you begin cultivating the capacity to perceive it. All of your work now is internal, it's not external. Now, that doesn't mean you don't take action. I'm going to get to that in a second. But I want you to think about the greatest ideas that you've ever had. Did they arrive because you sat at your desk, clenching your jaw, desperately trying to invent brilliance? Probably not. Did they appear unexpectedly while you were walking in nature or driving on the highway listening to some great music, or laying awake in bed when your mind had finally become quiet enough for something deeper to emerge? My experience has always been the latter. The most important insights of my life have never been manufactured. In fact, so often I find myself trying to manufacture a result and I become so frustrated that I finally give up and I step away, and that's when I become non-resistant enough to receive the answer I'd been looking for the whole time.
I want to go through that again, that process, because I think that's an interesting process to look at.
Probably not. Did they your jaw desperately trying to did they arrive in a second? But I want you to think about the greatest ideas that you've ever had. Did they arrive because you sat at your desk, clenching your jaw, desperately trying to invent brilliance? Probably not. Did they appear unexpectedly while you were walking in nature or driving on the highway listening to some great music, or laying awake in bed when your mind had finally become quiet enough for something deeper to emerge. My experience has always been the latter. The most important insights of my life have never been manufactured. In fact, so often I find myself trying to manufacture a result and I become so frustrated that I finally give up and I step away. And that's when I become non-resistant enough to receive the answer I'd been looking for the whole time.
So that's interesting because I guess it just comes down to what you attribute you receiving that answer or solution to, because he said that most of the times in his life when he's working hard on it, he may not get what he's looking for, but then when he takes a step away from it and can, like, I guess, prevent a lot of that noise that he was referring to earlier when he said the leaf blower, or I'm not sure if I'm making a direct or the best reference, but he was saying that when he takes a step away from it, then that answer comes. But what if part of the solution, or the part of the journey to get to that answer, was working hard on it and then taking a step away from it and relaxing? Maybe that's just another form of nature. It's almost as if, with your body, like working out, you beat your body up and your body doesn't become the body that you're looking for when you're actually working out. You're beating your body up. But then when you give your body a rest, that's when your body is able to then regenerate. All that tissue that you're breaking down as you're working out, when you give your body a rest, then your body's able to then regenerate and then have the better physique, or have all the benefits that you had from beating your body up. So do you attribute the rest to just, oh, I just rested for 3 days and then, my body felt better, well, also maybe attribute what you went through before the rest, right? Because if you just rested without doing the other stuff, then you probably wouldn't be in the position that you are in to now receive all the benefits from doing both. The yin and the yang, maybe. Let me see what you guys are thinking about it. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. Let's just keep going. Let's keep going.
And usually those answers arrive as a way of piecing all the pieces together. It's like the picture just emerges. There were like different things that were showing up in my life, and then bam, the whole framework is there. You might be too young to remember this, but I was born in the 1900s, and in the 90s they had these pictures that you could buy. It was a gimmicky type of thing, which was these geometric shapes. It almost just looked like an artistic pattern, and if you squinted your eyes just enough, the pattern would turn into a unicorn or a UFO. Like you could see the picture inside of it, and that's what happens in these moments. It's like the whole thing drops in. Sometimes it's an entire business model for me. Sometimes, it's the architecture of a keynote or a book or a framework. Sometimes it's just one sentence, but it's a sentence that reorganizes the way I see reality. And the remarkable thing is that these moments rarely occur when I'm trying to visualize. They happen when I'm present. They happen when my nervous system is settled enough that the negative inner critic inside of me steps aside for a moment.
I think, yeah, I agree with this. I agree with this, especially with the negative inner critic. For me, and you guys let me know what it's been for you, like the thing that allows me to be settled and step aside for a moment is putting in the work. The more I work on something, the more confident that I become with it. If I'm getting ready to do a speech, the more I work on it, the more I talk about it, the more I'm focused on it, the more I'm having conversations around it, the more I gain an understanding on it, then it allows me to relax a bit, step away from it, and then come out more naturally. But I still had to do the focus aspect and the actions before. And I attribute both to having the best speech that I can possibly have. So even when and I think Mama Lay said something. I thought that something was said. I may have missed something. Maybe I forgot what I was gonna say. All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
And so this awareness eventually forced me to ask a much more important question. If the vision is always available, what is preventing me from receiving it more consistently? And that then becomes my practice. I don't think the answer to that question is that I'm not smart enough. I don't think it's that you're not talented enough. I don't think it's because some people are chosen and others are forgotten. I think the answer is static.
Oh, this is what I wanted to say. Mama Lay, you made a good comment. You said you have to understand how to align, and that's what we weren't taught. You know what? In some ways, I think that we were, but just not taught it in an official way, or that maybe we cycled away from it. Think about when we were kids. You had your posters on the wall, right? You would have your favorite cars. Maybe you had actual cars. I can remember my little cousin, he was into like fast cars. So we had a bunch of like toy cars. I remember what I had on my wall, a lot of my favorite athletes, the things that I loved, the things that I was attracted to. They helped me visualize maybe one day seeing myself in those shoes. And I think that a lot of times with visualization or alignment, however we look at it, we're definitely not formally taught it. We're definitely not formally taught it. Matter of fact, we're probably taught things or, grow up with a culture that keeps us so, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to go to college, you got to get a job. We're such in a system where it doesn't allow ourselves to free our minds and really learn how to align. Like we look at alignment as you need to do this, then you do that, you do that. We don't look at it as a sense from a spiritual standpoint, maybe, or from a creator standpoint. So I definitely agree with you on that. But maybe there's certain things, that we could take away from throughout our lives that we were doing before more naturally, but not necessarily realizing it. Like nowadays, people create vision boards, or you go in certain people, they have stickers on their mirrors and all these different things. That just looked like every kid in the 90s room growing up. It was just a huge vision board. You know what I mean? So maybe it's incorporating a lot of these different things to put ourselves in a position to where we can have, at the end of this journey, the process of letting go, and whatever happens. And the greatest example that I can give for me is I remember in football camp. The second training camp that I had, and it was a guy named Mookie. And Big Mook, he was one of the most relaxed guy on the team. The most relaxed guy on the team. And he was an R&B singer, and he was a D lineman. And I'm like, yo, this big black dude, man, who on the field, he's like, it seems like he's playing like possessed. But when he's walking around, throughout the day, he was just so relaxed. And here I am, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm like on pins and needles because I'm trying to make a team. And I asked him one day, I said, yo, how do you how are you so relaxed? Like, you're not nervous, you're not anxious, none of these things. And he said, man, sometimes you got to just let go and let God. And I don't know what it did to me or how it clicked, because it's not like I was just, super duper religious at that time. Even though I did used to go to Bible study then on the team. But I wasn't super religious, but I just took what he was saying as like, you know what, you just got to relax a little bit. And I remember after that moment, it was like almost like being possessed, but you were just in that flow stage. Some people that play sports, you ever get into that flow where it's just like, yo, you can't miss, or it just seems like things are effortless, but like you're just doing everything right, where things are just happening for you. It just seems like you're seeing everything a little bit earlier, than you're responding and reacting quicker. But what I also had to realize is that I only could relax like that and let go and have those opportunities present itself, knowing that all of this stress and anxiety that caused me to do extra work before that and to prepare, because I was so scared that I wasn't going to be able to make a team. I was so scared that I wouldn't get an opportunity. So, you know what I mean? That made me over prepare in a lot of ways, from a physical standpoint, mental standpoint, that way. But then when I finally was able to let go, then everything came together and it just flowed. So I think that this is a definition of nature, the yin and the yang. And I don't know, maybe y'all have had other situations like that. Y'all tell me what y'all think.
It's noise. That's what prevents us from hearing. Every unresolved wound inside of you is competing for attention. Every limiting belief is filtering your perception. Every unconscious conclusion that I'm not enough, or I have to prove myself, or I don't deserve success, or I'll lose love if I become too powerful. All of those things act like another layer of static between you and the future that is already here trying to work through you. And that's why I believe personal growth and vision are inseparable. Most people think that personal growth is, about becoming a high performer, right? Okay, that's an interesting outcome, but I don't think that that's the deepest purpose of personal growth. I think the deepest purpose of personal growth is healing, because healing frees bandwidth inside of you. It creates internal spaciousness. It creates energy, or it unbinds energy that has been trapped inside of you. And that energy is, as it becomes free, starts to organize itself around possibility instead of protection.
I definitely agree with that you have to free space. Sometimes we're asking for certain things to come into our lives, but we're already full. So how can we ask to, put more in the back of the car when the back of the car is full? You got to get rid of some of that mess, reorganize this, get rid of the stuff that you're not using, get rid of the stuff that's not for you. Then you have an opportunity to now receive some more. So I do believe that. I do believe that 100%. And yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I'm about surrendering and allowing God, universe, my amazing energy to flow through me. I'm 100% with that. For me, it's the work that we put in that allows me to surrender. I can't just surrender to a situation, and maybe I guess I could try and see how it works. But to me, it's always been a combination. I can't surrender. I can't be about to take a test and just surrender and say, you know what? However this test goes, it goes. No, I have to actually study for me to have the capability to surrender. That's just how my mind works, or has worked. Now, I don't know if I'm willing to try to just, and I've gone into some tests in college where it's like, yo, I surrender. I surrender, and I look down at that test and I'm like, damn. The answers didn't come into my mind. You know what I mean? The answers didn't come. So I guess it's just it's combining all of these different things and figuring out what's the best solution for us. What works best for you to achieve that particular goal. And it may be a different equation for different types of goals. There may be some goals where it's like you may have prepared enough in a particular area where you can just go into it and just, I'm surrendering. Whatever happens, that's what happens. There may be other things where it's like, nah, you haven't earned the ability to surrender yet. What you need to do is maybe surrender to the work part of it and do that, and then you can surrender and say, you know what? I put in all the work. I'm cool with however this goes. However the results play out, I'm cool with it. So I think it's different for everybody.
So for years, my nervous system was too consumed with survival to perceive any deeper vision, right? I spent decades in drug addiction and alcoholism and sex addiction. And at that time, my inner world was just dominated by fear and shame and scarcity, and really the constant need to try to escape myself. So every ounce of psychological energy was invested in maintaining this old identity and all of these, unproductive habits that were destroying me. There was no room left for revelation because there was no room left for stillness. And if you've ever gone through profound anxiety or deep emotional suffering or addiction, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Survival compresses consciousness. It narrows your world until all you can think about is making it through the next hour, the next day. But that's not just in addiction. That's how most people are living, whether we want to admit it or not. We're living in a normalization of stress. And in that state, asking someone to visualize their future is almost cruel because the nervous system isn't oriented towards possibility, it's oriented towards protection. But
yeah, I that's what I was saying as far as the visualization, it's tough to close your eyes and see a dream world, but then wake up and you're like, oh man, like this ain't that. That can be anxious. And I don't, it may be for that, maybe that inspires some people. Maybe some people close their eyes and they visualize an amazing life and they open their eyes and see where they're living right now. And that inspires them to put in the work in order to get closer to align with those opportunities of the world that they want. I think it's different for everybody. I think some people grow up without a father or with, let's say, a relationship with their father, and their father, they don't like the way that their father treated them. They don't like the way that their father wasn't in their life, and that encourages them to be a better father. I think that in the majority of the time, I think that would probably create a lot of, I don't even want to say the majority. Like, I think y'all know we've talked about this before, but for some people, it's going to inspire people to do better. For some people, it's going to make that kid more like the father that they were. I think if I just had to be straightforward, which I think the majority of it off the top of my head, more lean in that direction, but it's what works best for you. It's what works best for you. I think it's very important to listen to things like this. And hold up, for anybody that wants to listen to it, the full video, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. So this is David Bear. Once you visualize like this, and check out David Bear. He has a lot of these videos that challenge our thoughts, that challenge the traditional way of thinking, or what has become the traditional way of thinking. Because I don't think that this is the traditional way of thinking that we've been taught. I think that this is a new way of thinking that, whether it's John Rockefeller, D. Rockefeller, and him trying to program us to become better workers rather than thinkers, I think that this has been something more common in recent years, where I think that, I don't know, whether it's 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, I think that we were just more in touch with nature and more in touch with the spiritual components that dictate what a lot of our lives ultimately become. So to each their own, but I think it's worth challenging ourselves to try different things. If you've been trying one way and you haven't gotten good results, then maybe try something else. Try a different way. What do we have to lose if we're already losing, especially? So let's finish off. We're going to do a couple deep breaths and then we're going to get out of here. We're going to wrap it up. But once again, that's David Bear. Once you visualize like this, reality shifts instantly. Him giving some game on how to visualize that may be a little different, or maybe just shift the mindset as far as how you've been visualizing currently. So let's do our breath work. Let's do a 4-second inhale. Of course, we're focusing on positive energy. A 4-second hold, followed by a 4-second exhale, pushing out positive energy, and then we're going to repeat 4 times. So if you're in a safe place, feel free to close your eyes. I'm going to close my eyes, but do what you feel is best for you. It is Friday, so y'all know we set out every week to do, make this our greatest week ever. I don't know if you got to visualize some stuff like that, or maybe not. Maybe you heard something that David Bear said and you want to just clear your mind, not think of anything, and then welcome something else that may come into your mind. So let's begin with a 4-second inhale now. Hold. Release. Inhale. Hold. Release. Inhale. Hold. Release. Inhale. Hold. This will be our last exhale. Put that energy out. All right, y'all know what we come here to do. Elevate on purpose, with intentions. Challenge yourself. Challenge ourselves. Let's challenge ourselves to think differently, to challenge our current way of looking at things, the old way looking at things, how that's impacted us, how we can make certain changes, implement different ways of doing things. Try it out. See what works best for you. See what works best for you and constantly grow. We should always be growing. We should always be growing. And with that, you can only grow, well, however you grow, you grow. I was getting ready to say you can only grow when you're challenged in different areas. Maybe that challenge for you is releasing a little bit. Maybe the challenge for you is putting in some effort and action. Whatever you see fit, whatever you see fit. Strength and honor, onward and upward. Y'all know what I mean when I say get to that bag. If you don't, all the things that you're focusing on that are going to ultimately align with the desired outcome that we're looking to manifest. So on that note, what I like to focus on, what's in my bag, peace, love, happiness, health, wealth, and everything we do, integrity. And of course, got to add on that little sprinkle of perspective. So on that note, y'all have an amazing one. Let me make sure that I like this. I like this. Getting some wise words from Big Bro. Get yourself right, lead your family with love and courage, and engage in your community to reflect the change you wish to see in the world. I love that. I love that. Let's see. So shout out to all y'all. The only time all day I think about breathing. Shout out to you, Phyllis. Shout out to you, Phyllis. All right, let's wrap it up. On that note, I shall see y'all. Hold on. Finro, prioritize the ones who bring you peace, the ones who match your energy, who stand firm when it matters, and see your depth. Alignment is a part of growth. Choose the people who choose you. Shout out to you, Chuck. Peace and mad respect, OG family. Have a great weekend and Father's Day. Yes, have an amazing Father's Day. Celebrate your dad, man. Celebrate your dad. Your dad doesn't ever get enough celebration, so make sure that you celebrate him. Hold on, Mama Lay, I like this. There's a life waiting for you that's beyond our comprehension or imagination. I 100% agree. 100% agree, and I don't even agree. I know. And like Steve said, resistance builds strength, mind, body, and soul. I love this. I love this. And as always, we'll finish off with the emojis from Queez. Shout out to all y'all. Y'all have an amazing weekend. All right. Love y'all, man. You.